Good morning. It's Bob Licher here with the Licher Real Estate Group. Thank you for joining us. And today we have Daniel Solomon on the team. And we're going to be talking about the top 4 reasons to sell your rental investment property and how to do it. We have some great recommendations for you as well that we're going to put in the follow-up email. So unfortunately, Kelly Swindell can't join us today, but she's also available to help you with your real estate needs if needed. So let's jump right in. Learn about the 4 top reasons to sell your investment property. How do I sell an investment property? And we have a great story with Daniel Solomon. Actually went through it last year with one of his rental properties, and we're going to let him chime in on kind of the whole process and how he the reason he wanted to sell the property, but kind of how you would do it if you do have a rental property that's tenant occupied. Where do we start?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, everybody's reasons are probably a little bit different as to why they may want to sell. Obviously, as those in the industry, in the real estate industry, we love to hear when people want to sell their rental or investment property because they then maybe want to roll it over into a bigger and better investment or rental property. But so let's just say though you have a rental property and you have good tenants. If you're fortunate enough to have good tenants, and I do think by and large a lot of people have really good tenants. One of the really important things to mention when you go to sell that property is that right there may become one of your best marketing pieces for selling the rental property. Aside from the house itself, aside from what the features are of the house, what features the house has, bedrooms, bathrooms, use your good renter as a real marketing piece, because a lot of the people who are going to want to buy that rental property are going to want to buy something that has a renter already in place. And if you can talk about the kind of the character and the timeliness and the kind of responsibility that your renter has, that may end up elevating your rental property over the next one. So really use that renter as your significant marketing piece to promoting that property.
That's a great point. And obviously, who you can call and help you do that. We'd love to help you sell your rental property. If you are watching this, we're in Denver, Colorado here on the Front Range. So plenty of experience there. Just to roll it back, and even a little bit before that, something as simple as how do I approach the tenants? Maybe the tenants don't know. What's a good way? I mean, when you take you for example, was it a call that came out of left field for them, or do you kind of work up to that phone call that, hey, getting ready to list the property, just so you know, I want to give you enough time? How much time do you think is reasonable to give a tenant to get onto their new spot? If you're going to get an offer, they might have to get out pretty quickly, it seems like.
Yeah, that's a good question, Bob, because there's my default answer is say give them as much time as possible or try to be as transparent as possible. The downside to that possibly is that you potentially put a seed in their head, which then may get them to start looking quicker than you're actually moving to sell. And you don't want to necessarily be in a position like that, because as I just mentioned, if you lose that really good renter because you planted the seed in their mind and they are starting to now look for something else, well, then that is one thing you can't sell with your property. So, but I do believe, especially these days, given kind of the circumstances of where the world is at, is there is an honesty is the best policy kind of thing. And I think as soon as you, as the owner of the home, is really serious about contacting an agent, getting that sign in the ground in the weeks thereafter, and kind of that, I think it's really important to give that renter at least 60 days, at least 30 days, if not 60 days.
I think that sounds like a great plan. Maybe sit them down or have a phone call and say, here's our basic timeline. Don't do it too early, because you might scare them a little and you lose a few months of your, maybe depending on that income.
Right.
And really just take it, I guess it's going to be case by case, obviously, but see how that first phone call goes. Maybe set a second time where you can hammer out the details on your timeline to sell the property.
Right.
And I think that's a really good point, is to be obviously as transparent as possible. There are other issues we deal with. Obviously, you have tenants that don't like the fact that we're selling the property or that the owner is selling the property. And sometimes you can get a scenario where it gets a little bit sticky. And at that point, you have, we've got all the attorneys on hand here that we can recommend and send to you. If you're ever in a bad case, let us know that too, and we can get you in the right direction.
And Bob, the other thing I'd mention is that, kind of as I start at the top, if you have a great renter, use that as a selling point to the property. If you have a less than ideal renter, well, the opposite is true. You probably want that renter to move on so that that person is not someone that a new buyer is going to have to work with. So in that situation, Bob, if you have a less than ideal renter, I think the best strategy there is rip the Band-Aid off. Just let them know, hey, we are looking to sell this place. If I project out that we're going to have it on the market in 2 weeks, and we're hopefully looking to get offers within the next 2 weeks and then a 30-day escrow, I anticipate that this thing will close 8 weeks from now. And you may want to just say to them, I think it's in your best interest to circle on your calendar a date that is 6 to 8 weeks from now and look at that as your kind of departure date. And just really be very upfront and direct with them and say, let's not speculate too far. Let's just kind of say, here's a date on the calendar and let's kind of go with this.
Yeah, give them some time. Well, and something we didn't touch on was the lease agreement. That might come into play. I mean, that's a good time if the lease is up for renewal. Maybe you can create, we'll help you create a plan or whatever your plan is with the rental property. Hey, my lease is up in 6 months. Get a piece of paper out, make a whole timeline, throw it on a spreadsheet, and if we do have that 3-month mark, make the phone call there, and then just time it so like, wow, this lease is up. I want to have this property closed. Right after the lease, or just maybe we showing it the last month. And so that's going to be helpful too, because that tenant will already kind of know it's kind of in their radar that, hey, my lease is up. I need to make a decision, either renew a lease. And so some of that, there's going to be a lot of communication, but some of that's going to be, they're going to be thinking about it too. Like, hey, where do I go? Am I going to find a new place? Do I need more space? Can I buy a home? Can I buy this home? And so maybe sometimes that's a scenario that comes up as the tenant buys the home. And,
absolutely.
Obviously that we've done that quite a bit throughout the years. Daniel had one last year. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that, where the tenant that was in your property was really going to just buy this place.
Yeah, and that's a great opportunity. Is look to see if your tenant may be in a position to be the person to qualify to buy it, because it could make for a smoother transaction potentially. And certainly we'd be, as agents, we can help advise, getting that tenant perhaps set up with a good lender to see if they may qualify, because, I would say that by and large, and this is just a guess, Bob, I would probably tend to think that maybe a third to half of all renters would like to buy the house that they are currently renting and living in, because they're comfortable there and their stuff is there and they don't have to move. And if they have an opportunity, or if they see an opportunity to possibly buy that rental property that they're going to be a part of, I think it's a really good fit for them. And again, it may just be a case of them having to meet with a lender to see what they're eligible to possibly afford.
Well, to your point, you're right, Daniel. It might be a smoother transaction for the investor, for the landlord, property owner, because the tenant owns the property. We won't have to go on the market with the property. We won't have to have a ton of showings, and so you'll never really know its true market value. Rather than putting it in the market, because then you're going to drive a bunch of potential buyers and investors there. But it might be a great trade-off, is that you don't have to get it ready, and that tenant can buy the property and be happy. And they know it already. So they know, oh my gosh, I have to bang the dishwasher 4 times to get it to work, but not a big deal.
Right.
You have another stranger and you don't have to negotiate with another agent or what have you and their buyer. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Bob, one of the other things I just wanted to quickly mention would be, and I know we're probably jumping a little bit ahead here, just in the sense of like, as agents, we never want to talk right away about concessions, that kind of thing. But as the owner of a rental property, if you suspect that a chunk of your security deposit may be something that you're keeping because there's maybe a little more wear and tear or a little more damage on the property than had been anticipated. Rather than, as the owner of the property is going to sell it, rather than think about that as, oh, money I'm going to put back into my pocket, but maybe instead think about it as money that you may want to offer as a concession to a new buyer.
Sure.
That you can immediately say, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $1,000 or $2,000, $1,500 concession to get some new carpet in this room because I know this carpet needs to be replaced.
Sure.
And it saves you, as the owner of the home, one step in having to go through the process of the fix. And again, it incentivizes the deal a little bit because that money is effectively been sitting in a bank account for however many years as a security deposit. And so it's technically not yours. It belongs to your renter. But if you're going to end up keeping it, it might become a nice incentive piece for the next buyer.
Well, and I mean, looking back over the years of selling tenant-occupied properties or ones that had been rentals for years, I mean, really, if you're watching this webinar, you're watching the recap of it, maybe later on, I think best world scenario, like from a broker standpoint, who like Daniel or I, whatever agent you have, I mean, for us, it'd be great to get the tenant out of there, fix it up as much as you can if you have a budget, and then let us market and sell it that way. So, I mean, that's perfect world scenario. Mm-hmm. Kind of what we've just laid out the last 10, 15 minutes is a little bit about how do I do it if the tenant's in there, and you can still sell it with tenant occupied. But really, sure. World scenario is get the best case scenario is going to be like wait till they leave, wait till the lease is up. It's going to be about a week. For you to tie up a carpet and paint and things like that, and then we can have you listed hopefully that month is usually what we see.
And Bob, to that point, I think that's why sometimes ripping that Band-Aid off and just kind of giving that tenant a pretty hard date and saying, this is when because not only does it hold the tenant to that date, but it holds you to that date as the owner/seller of the home. It really kind of keeps you very focused in saying, okay, we've projected out a date that's 6 or 8 weeks from now. Here's where it's going to be. Here's when I, best case scenario, expect it to sell and close. And I'm going to then need to spend some time after that getting some new carpet in, new paint, whatever it happens to be. But it gives everyone a really solid target date in mind and say, this is when things are going to happen.
Sure. Well, and some like the new buyer, the new investor, they may keep it as a rental, but a lot of them want to pick and hire and vet their own tenants. So they want to start fresh.
Right.
A lot of these folks. So that's something to consider too. So moving on to, I know we're going a little bit over time today, but let's say the next step. We've got the property, tenant's gone. We've marketed the property, have a great offer, great buyer in play, and we're at closing, and you get a big check. A big question that we get from a lot of our clients and just folks at dinner parties and whatnot is, will I owe capital gains when from the sale of this rental investment property, and how much will it be? And the short answer is we don't know. Ask your accountant. Ask your CPA. Yep. We have a great firm, couple firms we can send you in the follow-up email or in the recap from this video. If you would like answers to those questions, we have a great team that can help answer those for you.
Yeah.
Jeff Sherman with Red Point Financial he's done great things for us and our team, but yeah, that's something we can't answer for you, unfortunately.
Well, and Bob, the biggest reason I think we can't answer it, if we had to pick one single big reason why we can't answer it, aside from the fact that we're not accountants, we are real estate agents, but I think the biggest reason is because if you've done your accounting right on this rental property for however many years you owned it, you took a certain amount of depreciation, and the depreciation is such an important factor in not only your year-to-year taxes, but it's such an important factor when you do finally sell it and you have that large check, as you would say, and you're trying to figure out capital gains. Depreciation for all those back years is going to play such a big factor in what that number is. And I'm going to leave it at that because I can't speak to more than that. I don't understand how the nuances of the depreciation and the capital gains and all that. That's where you have to have an accountant to help you out on that.
Well, great point. And to tie in, Daniel, to tie into our last webinar, actually, this comes right, it just came up, actually, 1031 exchange, the tax deferral. And we can send you that video. If you're watching this one, all of our videos, we have them for you. We can send it out. So that's an option. Like, how do I get rid of the capital gains? You could just roll it into another property, maybe another like and kind property. Maybe it's closer to you, or maybe you're working some deals with your business and you want to expand and use the property that way. So maybe that's a way to figure out those capital gains if you don't want to get hit with and a lot of options you can talk to your accountant about. And step two is, back to the capital gains and closing and this big check that you have. Sold your rental property, now what? Maybe you don't want to purchase more real estate. Maybe you want to just keep it in your bank. We would say, talk to a financial advisor. We have a whole list of great. I have a top 3. We can send those over to you as well. And they can really help guide you, put all of the moving parts together for you, and really be in your court there, in your toolbox. Did we have any? We have any Q&A time? Do we have any questions from anyone? I think we have a few tuned in. Jason, you have any questions for us? I see you there. I'll have to unmute and see if we can.
No questions for now. I just wanted to jump in your webinar, listen to you guys talk about rental properties and such, because that's definitely in the future for me. I definitely want to look into buying rental properties, and I'm going to be worrying about capital gains. So thanks for that. Thanks for the webinar.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And there's not many of us on here today, so we can talk about whatever we want with real estate stuff. Feel free to throw some questions. Jason's actually launching a great business here in the metro area, and he's really working some fun stuff that we can interview him on another webinar. That'd be great to have Jason out and talk about some of the fun stuff he's doing with his small business. And he can really talk a lot about the commercial real estate and kind of some of his plans there.
And Bob, the other thing I was going to mention real quickly is I think the process of buying or selling a rental property or investment property is it's even more paramount that you have a good team working with you. And that starts with us as the real estate agents, but it does include an accountant, quite possibly an attorney if you feel like you're getting into a property that you need some legal advice on. But this is not to scare people, but to just kind of say, like, this is a case where line up your team of people and let those professionals really work well for you, because to try to wing it through this process, it's hard enough if you're just buying a home for you and your partner and your kids, whatever. But when you're buying an investment property and rental property, get the right team in place. It's really, really important to have those people working well for you.
Great point. Yeah, it's just like any sports, a great team. Have a great team behind you. You're going to have your coach, and you're going to have referees out there, other team members, the quarterback. And, in all of these stories, just remember, you're the hero of the story. And we're huge on that. That comes from a book called Storytelling. Storyteller. Anywho. Well, you guys, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I can just quickly speak to that. It is important for sure. With any investment, whether it be property investment or business investment, that.
Oh, we lost you.
Do you created?
Oh, there you are. Sorry, we lost you for a minute.
Hello?
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, it's been 2 to 3. It's been about 2 or 4 weeks since my LLC has been created, but my growth has been exponential because of my team. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. Is just echo what you guys were saying about teams.
Yeah, it's good. Good to be on a team. And well, you guys, usually this is where we cue the outro music. We don't have it. But thanks again for tuning in. By the way, we're never too busy for your real estate referrals. We love real estate. We love servicing our clients' real estate referrals. If you know anyone in the metro area in Colorado looking to buy a home, sell a home, invest in real estate, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. We'd love to talk to you about it. And have a beautiful day. We look forward to seeing you soon.